welcome to the Explainer. Okay, let's just dive right into this because we've all been there. Picture this, it's 2 p.m., you're sitting at your desk, you've just finished a totally normal lunch, and suddenly you are literally fighting for your life to keep your eyes open. Your head starts bobbing, your focus is entirely gone, and you're just staring at the clock wondering how on earth you're going to survive the rest of the day, right? It is the dreaded afternoon crash, and honestly, it's a truly universal experience.
Which brings us to a surprisingly complex question. Why do we suddenly feel so sleepy after lunch? It sounds simple enough, you eat, you get tired. But the truth is, this everyday phenomenon is actually a fascinating biological mystery. We kind of tend to blame the wrong things for this crash, relying on these myths that have just been passed down for decades. So today, we're going to play detective. We're going to investigate the exact mechanics behind the midday slump, pull apart the science of our digestion and our body clocks, and finally figure out how we can reclaim our afternoons.
Let's actually start by giving this mystery its proper clinical name: postprandial somnolence. Sounds fancy, right? But post just means after. Prandial refers to a meal, and somnolence means drowsiness. Basically, it's a short-term increase in sleepiness and sluggishness that typically peaks 1 to 2 hours after eating. So if you ever feel guilty about wanting to curl up and take a nap under your desk, don't. This food coma is a heavily documented real physiological event. But what actually causes the whole shebang? Well, let's break it down.
Section 1. Debunking post-lunch myths.
Before we can uncover the real culprits behind our sleepiness, we absolutely have to eliminate the usual suspects. For years, people have confidently blamed their afternoon fatigue on a few specific biological processes that, according to the latest research, are completely misunderstood. Let's take the classic myth that digestion steals all the blood from your brain. You've definitely heard this one, right? The idea that you eat a big meal, your stomach needs blood to digest it, so the blood rushes down, drains from your head, and leaves you tired. But actually, scratch that. Brain blood flow is strictly regulated. Your brain, despite being only 2% of your body weight, demands 20% of your basal metabolic rate. It relies on a continuous, uninterrupted supply of glucose to function. If blood was actually significantly redirected away from your brain, you wouldn't just feel sleepy, you'd have slurred speech and blurred vision within minutes. So we can safely cross the blood drain myth right off our list.
Okay, here's another massive one, the tryptophan coma. The idea here is that eating a bunch of carbs spikes your insulin, which clears out other amino acids and lets tryptophan just flood your brain to make serotonin and melatonin. Sounds logical, but the reality is that normal amounts of dietary protein easily block excess tryptophan from entering the brain. The original science behind this myth required subjects to eat a highly unnatural meal. We're talking 70 to 75% carbohydrates and less than 2% protein. If your meal has even 5% protein, which almost all normal meals do, that tryptophan sleep mechanism is entirely blocked because all the other amino acids are competing for access to the brain.
And that perfectly highlights the absurdity of trying to get a sleep hormone directly from your diet. 38 kilograms. People often say foods naturally high in melatonin, like tart cherries, will just knock you right out. But to get even a minimal 0.5 milligram pharmacological dose of melatonin, literally the lowest amount used in standard sleep aids, you would need to eat 38 kilograms of tart cherries. It is practically impossible to induce a food coma strictly through the melatonin found naturally in a normal meal.
Section 2. The real biological culprits. So, if it isn't blood draining from our brains, and it definitely isn't a tryptophan or melatonin overdose, what on earth is it? Well, it all comes down to what scientists call the perfect storm equation. It starts with your basic lunch digestion. Breaking down food naturally relaxes the body. Then, add to that your natural afternoon body clock dip. Your circadian rhythm genuinely lowers your alertness in the early afternoon, entirely regardless of what you eat. Next, factor in meal size. Heavy meals take way more energy to process. And finally, add poor sleep from the night before. When you combine digestion, that inevitable circadian dip, a heavy meal, and an existing sleep debt, bam! It equals post-lunch sleepiness. It is a combined systemic response. It's like a giant biological puzzle coming together to make you yawn. If we look at this on a molecular level, we really have to talk about cytokines. These are proteins that play a major role in your immune response. Research shows that their concentration actually rises after eating, especially after high-calorie meals. So when you ingest a lot of glucose, it can provoke a cytokine-mediated immune response that triggers mild inflammation and rapid fatigue. Your body is basically mounting a tiny immune reaction to processing a massive influx of calories, which makes you feel instantly lethargic.
Now, the absolutely crucial point here is understanding exactly what you are feeling. Are you experiencing sleepiness Or are you experiencing fatigue? They sound the same, but they aren't. Sleepiness is the actual physical tendency to fall asleep at any given opportunity, like straight up nodding off in a 3 p.m. meeting. That is driven by sleep debt. Fatigue, on the other hand, is low energy. You're exhausted, maybe from a tough workout, low iron, or that cytokine response we just talked about, but you wouldn't necessarily be able to just close your eyes and sleep. Knowing the difference helps you identify if your slump is a biological reaction to food or if you just desperately need better sleep at night.
Section 3. How diet drives drowsiness.
We know the body has a natural circadian dip, but what we choose to put on our plates can absolutely act as an accomplice, accelerating and worsening the crash. Take a look at your everyday dietary choices. On one side, we have the energy drainers. High-fat foods like fried foods and pizza, and refined carbs like sweets and white bread. These cause your blood sugar to spike violently and then just plummet, taking your energy right along with it. Add in unusually large portions or a glass of alcohol, and a crash is a total guarantee. On the flip side, we have the energy sustainers. High-fiber carbohydrates, proteins, whole fruits, vegetables, and plenty of water. These guys provide a slow, steady release of glucose that keeps your brain fueled and your energy beautifully stable through the afternoon.
You might have actually noticed a really specific, interesting item on that sustainer list. Traditional additions like ghee and chutneys provide a small dose of essential fat, fiber, and micronutrients. Celebrity nutritionists have highlighted these as incredible tools to prevent lethargy. They add dietary diversity and, let's be honest, deliciousness to your meal, while providing the stable, essential fats that prevent those rapid blood sugar spikes associated with the afternoon slump. It's just a great example of how eating smarter, not necessarily eating less, can keep you awake and focused.
Section 4. When it's something more.
But what if you do everything right? What if you eat perfectly, sleep perfectly, and still experience an overwhelming, crushing crash after eating? Well, for some people, this isn't just a mild inconvenience, it is a severe physiological reaction. In post-viral illnesses like ME/CFS, which is myalgic encephalomyelitis or chronic fatigue syndrome, and long COVID, ordinary, everyday meals interact with pre-existing immune, vascular, and autonomic abnormalities. For these individuals, a food coma isn't a gentle sense of relaxation. No, it is a rapid, measurable drop in energy that happens because their baseline systems are already dysregulated. The standard digestive process triggers a really intense chain reaction.
Let's break down the intense mechanisms happening here. First up is splanchnic blood pooling. Remember how we said normal digestion doesn't drain the brain? Well, in people with autonomic dysfunction, blood does inappropriately pool in the abdomen, causing postprandial hypotension. That's a severe drop in blood pressure, causing dizziness and intense weakness. Second, mast cell-related vasodilation. Simply eating a meal triggers intestinal mast cells to release histamine, which widens blood vessels and causes rapid fatigue. And finally, kynurenine pathway activation. Instead of making serotonin, their immune system pushes tryptophan into a pathway that creates neuroinflammation and severe brain fog. So for these folks, managing meal size and histamine triggers is an absolute daily necessity, not just some office productivity hack.
Section 5. How to beat the slump.
Okay, now that we understand the science, from circadian rhythms down to blood sugar spikes, how do we practically apply this to our daily lives so we aren't completely miserable at 3 p.m.? Behavioral sleep specialist Dr. Anthony Reffi points out something fascinating. He says the longer we go without sleep, the stronger our drive for sleep becomes. And by the time we hit mid-afternoon, we've already gone several hours without sleep. This is the foundational truth of the midday slump. Beating the afternoon crash doesn't actually start at lunch, it starts the night before. If you're carrying a massive sleep debt into your day, no amount of healthy eating is going to stop your biological drive to sleep when that circadian rhythm naturally dips in the afternoon.
But, assuming your sleep is in check, here is your midday recovery toolkit. Step 1. Eat smaller, balanced meals. Always pair your high-fiber carbs with a protein to keep that blood sugar stable. Step 2. Hydrate. Mild dehydration loves to masquerade as fatigue. Drink water instead of instantly defaulting to caffeine. Step 3. Get 15 minutes of sunlight or take a quick walk. Light exposure actively inhibits your body's production of melatonin and literally wakes your brain up. And step 4, if you have the luxury, take a strictly timed 15 to 20-minute power nap. It clears the brain without pushing you into a groggy, deep sleep.
Now hold on a second. Notice what wasn't in that toolkit. A massive cup of afternoon coffee. The hard truth is, caffeine has diminishing returns. When you rely on afternoon caffeine to fight the post-lunch dip, your body just ends up requiring more and more of it over time.
Worse, that late-day caffeine lingers in your system for hours, negatively affecting your ability to get deep sleep that night. So you wake up with a larger sleep debt, making tomorrow's afternoon crash even worse. It is a vicious, endless cycle.
So, we've seen today that postprandial somnolence is a really complex mix of our circadian rhythms, digestion, immune responses, and the food choices we make every day. The next time you feel your eyes getting heavy after lunch, step away from the espresso machine. Go grab a big glass of water, maybe step outside for some sunlight, take an honest look at how you're sleeping at night. But most importantly, I want you to ask yourself, is your 2 p.m. coffee habit actually curing your slump? Or is it just masking your sleep debt?